Thank you for joining us on Mazda Commercial Real Estate. Today we have Phil Atwan, the 1031 exchange specialist. Phil, thank you for being on the show.
Cam, I'm honored that you would invite me. Thank you.
You got what I want, got what I want. You give me just one look and you know I'm good to go. You know I'm good to go.
It's been about 20 years now that we've worked together.
Yeah, give or take a few years.
It's been great always, and it's always been a pleasure working with you, and you've always, helped out the clients and, hold their hands and babysit them till the end point. I appreciate that.
Thank you. First of all, it's my pleasure. Number two, it's a passion that I have. And number three, I found out that the best sales tools are taking care of people. And knowing what you're talking about, making sure they're all taken care of. It's wonderful, wonderful business to be in.
We appreciate it. Well, recently you did go into retirement, and you ended up coming back. Hopefully not going to work as much harder.
No.
But you still take care of the clients. You need a couple more assistants to take the load off you.
The team is working out great.
Amazing.
They do everything for me. They look at my emails. Perfect. Sometimes I can forward the phone if I need to. Sure. They just take care of everything. So
that's great.
Don't pinch me because I don't want to wake up from this dream. It's really a wonderful dream.
Well, I mean, anybody who even has any 1031 questions, you were always available and still are available to answer questions. It doesn't have to necessarily be a transaction, and that's what's always made you successful.
Well, you know what? You take care of people. You want people to swear by you and not at you.
Right.
And the bottom line is the more information you can bring to them that would be a fragrance.
Sure.
They welcome that. And people want to do business with people like that. Sure. And people love to refer people like that.
Correct.
Because when you refer somebody, it's going to either make your reputation better or worse.
Absolutely. Definitely. So let's get on. So 1031 exchange, I'm pretty sure a lot of viewers already know about it. Let's give them a synopsis, and then we'll jump into the reverse 1031s.
You got it. They're still very popular. Investors, when you sell a piece of property, the government's going to charge you, at least in California, 4 different taxes. Number one, you have the California state tax. Mm-hmm. Number two, you have the depreciation recapture tax. Number three, you're going to have the healthcare or Obamacare tax, whatever you want to call it. And number four, you have the long-term capital gains taxes. That's 4 taxes that's going to take an average, and everybody's different, between 28 to about 45% of your capital gain. It's just going to go. And a lot of folks feel like, well, because I took money out of the property, there's not so much of a capital gain. And that's just really a misunderstanding, because capital gain has nothing to do with how much equity you have. It's based on the sales price minus the adjusted basis. So if you took cash out of the property, you still have a monster capital gain. You've just pre-spent it. And you've got a rude awakening when you go to sell.
Right.
It allows you to defer that, which is a wonderful thing that the government gave us in 1921, that if you sell investment real estate, you could go and acquire any kind of investment real estate anywhere in the country. And frankly, about 30 to 35% of my business since COVID are people leaving California, especially in the residential multi-unit end. They just feel like, it's like we need balance. And the tenants have to have rights, but the landlords do too. But our economy and our government has gone the opposite way here in Los Angeles County and in the state. And a lot of investors want to move their properties around to other places where there's more equity, more equitable feeling between both landlord and everybody's got to be responsible.
It's got to be fair for everybody, both sides.
Yeah. So they're moving their capital gains into other investment real estate. And the government says it has to be a like-kind exchange, Cam. But most investors get confused with that. Like-kind doesn't mean I have to go from a 12-unit building to multiple units. I can go from a 12-unit building to a single-family rental to a commercial asset, industrial. I could even go to vacant land. As long as I'm acquiring for equal or more and I reinvest all the cash from the sale into the purchase, I can virtually buy any investment real estate. And the government takes it one more step. They say, you don't have to put it in one property. You can go multiple properties. So if you want to diversify, not put all your equity in one property, you can do that. And the government just continues to allow us since 1921 to do this tax deferred exchange. It's not tax-free. It is deferred. But most investors have trusts who are the owners of the property or the owners of the LLC. And then when they pass, their estate gets a stepped-up basis to the surviving spouse. And then the second surviving spouse then will also, their heirs will get a stepped-up basis. So literally, they don't have to do an exchange. They can just sell the asset and be done with it.
Right. So it is generational.
Yes, sir.
And one other thing you've mentioned, which is very important, is the step-up basis, which probably a lot of viewers are not familiar with.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Everyone should have a trust attorney that they work with because, like I said, like when you let's say you bought the property for $400,000, now it's worth $2 million.
Sure.
Well, when you die, the difference is probably more or less is going to be your capital gain.
Sure.
The surviving spouse receives the property at the value at the date of death through the trust. Now, some people say, well, community property state, they let you do that. Yeah, but the problem is if that's the full truth, there's only one step up. What about if they survive and they're going to live another 10, 15, 20 years? What happens to the kids? Right. Well, they're going to get stuck with the tax unless there's a trust, and then it gives you a second step up. So they could receive the property at the $3 million now that it's worth, and then they can just split it up. I had a gal who called me on the way up here today, and same thing. You know, there's multiple, her mom died and there's a trust, but by the same token, there's a big part of the trust that has to go through probate that won't be available.
So is it unlimited step-ups or is there?
Well, usually, but there's a limited step-up as long as the trust is still in place. But once, like I die and then my wife gets to step up. I don't know why us guys always are the ones that go first. But then my wife our kids will get to step up when she passes. So whatever gain that there was from the $2 million to the $3 million or whatever it happens to be, that circumstance.
What about your grandkids get it? Is there a step up at that point? Or?
Everybody gets a step up,
They do.
but only one time. As soon as the step up happens and it's all done, it becomes now an irrevocable trust. Sure. And at that point, they have to start another trust for themselves.
Got it.
But it's not that much money to get a trust.
Correct.
I mean, really, it just isn't. You're talking between what? $2,000 and $4,000 to $5,000. I mean, it'll be more if you have a lot of properties and a lot of assets. But what an investment into your family. And the government says, okay.
So literally, if it goes down 3, 4, 5 generations, each one takes one step up, they pretty much have received this with no tax basis.
That's why we call it in our industry swap till you drop.
Right.
You know, and ultimately you just keep exchanging, which defer.
Right.
And then ultimately the other one will get the step up. You know, and that's a good thing. And then there's a second step up for that person because they're one of the trustees of the trust, right? So their kids or their heirs will receive a step up.
That is amazing.
It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Only in America.
Right. Only in America. Absolutely. Definitely. Phil, let's talk a little bit about reversed 10th year warranty, which you mentioned is you're seeing more of since the COVID days. And how does that work?
Reverse, and Cam, it's an excellent question. And the reason why it's so good is because the market is very interesting in terms of inventory. Some people like to wait until they find the exact property they want, and they want to be able to acquire it, not have to sell something first and then acquire it. So they're like a prowling lion, just looking for the right,
Property.
Yeah, property, I guess, in this situation, is an animal, or food, dinner. But, and then the government now allows them, they can either go in all cash or have a substantial down payment and borrow the rest. We have to set up a reverse exchange where the acquisition is being held for them if it's all cash. If it's not all cash and it has a loan, then we have to take title to the property they're relinquishing. They're going to sell. So instead of holding money like we do on a delayed exchange, we're going to hold either the one that's being bought or the one that's being sold. And then ultimately they have 180 days to close the sale.
On the reverse.
Now, that's a good deal if you're lying in wait, waiting for opportunity. Right. Because opportunity can fall out of the sky, and if you're not ready to jump, somebody else is going to get it. If I don't jump on it, you're going to jump on it. Right. And that's why you're successful. So the bottom line is that That's what investors like. Here's another reason why someone would do a reverse exchange. I'm in escrow. I'm closing my sale in about 3 weeks. I'm closing my purchase in a month. So I'm closing almost concurrently.
Right.
But my buyer falls out and I still have an obligation for the property I want to acquire. That's when the reverse comes in really handy because you can still close the acquisition and then close the sale up to 40 or up to 180 days
Afterwards.
later.
Of that close of escrow.
Yeah.
That's a great product. It is a little bit more costly, right, on the reverse.
It's a lot more costly.
lot more.
You're talking $1,250 for a normal, typical exchange.
Sure.
For a reverse exchange, it's going to average somewhere between $7,000 to about $10,000.
It's quite a bit
so
more.
it costs more. And most of my investors don't blink because they say, so I'm going to spend $8,000 more.
Sure.
But I don't have to pay how many tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes, and I get the property I want. Where do I sign?
Worth every penny.
And that's how they feel. Or if they feel that it's too much to spend, then don't do it.
Right.
Just do the delayed exchange. It'll give you the exact same results. But as most investors know, we have to set up the exchange before the sale closes. You have 45 days to name. You have 180 days to close. And if you can't find in this inventory market in 45 days, you're up the creek.
Unless you go into the DSTs.
Unless you go to DSTs. And that's a good alternative for an investor who can't find a property. Now, all DSTs are not alike. They just aren't. There are some good ones and there's some not so good ones. Sure. There are people who sell those properties. It's sort of like, let's throw everything against the wall and see what sticks, as opposed to being very deliberate and on purpose and making sure you've got the right property. So like any property, it's got to be the right property. Right. But I'm finding in this market that we're in, especially with the baby boomers now, they're sort of the predominant sellers in so many situations. And many of them are tired. They're either near or they're going into retirement, and they don't want to manage units. They don't want to manage residential properties. And what they're doing is they're exchanging into triple net or DST properties because they can find something where number one, they don't have to pay the capital gain.
Sure.
Number two, they're not as interested in equity growth as they are in cash flow, especially when you retire.
Right.
I know. So the bottom line is you want the income to come in. And that's the beauty about going into triple net or DSTs because number one, you don't have to buy in a state that you're not real happy in. Right. And number two, you can go into the types of different properties. Some people want to go into self-storage. Some want to go into commercial buildings. Some want to go into industrial buildings. Right. Some want multi-unit luxury properties in big cities. Those are all the types of DSTs that are out there where you can go. Retail, food. I mean, there's all kinds of different DSTs or triple nets you can go into. It's nice about you don't have to manage manage a manager who's mismanaging your property, or you can be in a situation where they're stuck in the lease and it's corporate back, especially. So there was a Ford dealer where I used to live, and they went out of business. You remember 2008 and 9 and 10 and 11. So everybody remembers those years, right? And what happened is the owner never lost a payment because Ford Motor Company guaranteed the lease. So it was vacant for a few years, but they never missed a lease payment. So the bottom line is, what a way to go into properties. Now, it is usually a little more of a single tenant, but if it's a good corporate tenant, they're probably going to be in business.
Yeah, the big thing is signing, you're safe.
Yeah.
The anchor tenants.
Yeah. Anchor tenants are great.
Right. Let's talk about when people say the accommodator and your money is with the accommodator. And so just we can go through that process a little bit so they understand what's being meant.
To do a 1031 exchange, our street slang name is accommodator, facilitator, but the IRS name is called qualified intermediary. Sure. It's all the same baloney. Basically, there's no difference. What happens is, number one, we have to set up the documents on the property that's either first being sold or first being acquired, sure, and then we take care of the other one. But the government has given us the responsibility to hold the funds in between escrow. Now, many companies do it the right way. Some do not, but the majority do. It's the some that do not that makes me nervous. Number one, you need a segregated account where the money needs to go into. Number two, nobody can leave the account unless the client gives an authorization, and there needs to be one or two backup authorizing ways to make sure that it isn't with all the bad folks that are doing all the bad things online and phone calls and everything, that you can protect those funds. Make sure, number three, it's not in a corporate account of the facilitator that's doing the exchange, because typically in a corporate account, your income is going through that, your expenses are going out, and if they start borrowing from Peter to pay Paul on money that they can move because it is their corporate account, I've seen the BKs happen. So you don't want that, or the money being taken when it wasn't authorized. You want to make sure that you know every single day that if there's ever a change, you get notified via email that business day. And you want to make sure that you have the way to say, no, I'm not authorizing that move to be made. So you make sure they have bonding, errors and omissions insurance. Make sure it's also that they have good tax counsel and legal counsel on board. You need both. And not that they're going to give you tax decisions to be made or opinions, but ultimately, how does it relate to this exchange and what would be allowable and not allowable? These are the things that are very important in terms of the equity that's being held, in terms of the advice that's being given. You know, are they stable? Have they been around for at least 20 years? That kind of a thing like that. You want to make sure that your money is, though that isn't what you want to worry about, though it's the highest priority. Right. You want to make sure you're going from to the right property and make sure that there will never be any questions about the fidelity issue of those funds.
There could be hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in any of these accounts at one time.
Yeah, that's right. That's why it's got to be staggered. That's why they have to be individual accounts. That's why they have to be going in a good financial institution that's stable, that has a good track record, has healthy numbers. So that you don't, some of the really big banks are really some of the best places to put some of those.
Safest.
Yeah, you want it to be safe. You don't want it, and it's got to be somewhat liquid because you've got to be able to transition at the latest 180 days. That's not a lot of time.
It goes fast.
It goes faster than you think.
Right. And then also there's at times when there's the accommodation amount is a big amount. They do, the client does receive a certain interest on it. So on over certain balances.
Yes, over certain balances. And usually they're negotiable. Some companies won't do any. Some will do some. But that's part of the fee for the accommodator as well. Right. So usually, some companies say, anything under the first million is mine. Anything after that will work 5%, 10%, whatever they want to do. Some do, some I guess can do more. Some of the I don't want to say fraud, but the misrepresentation maybe is I've seen a couple of companies say, well, you receive 100% of the interest and this is what it looks like. But they're assuming that it's going to be there for 180 days and many times it's not. Number two, when you start reading the writing, all the fine print, yeah, it's sort of true, but not 100% true. You need good people who know what they're doing. It's not that much money you're talking about as you are hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to making sure that the right property that's being sold and certainly the right property or properties are being acquired.
Right. That's what I was leading to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely, Cam.
There's also, what are the 10 most important items for 1031?
Well, there are a lot of different items. Number one, am I going into a property that I could see myself staying and that it will grow in a good area that's going to continue to develop and be worth more over time? Will it maintain the kind of cash flow, or are they building too many other types of properties like that in the area that might give me too much competition? The rents might be going down, or the values may not be growing. So I think where they buy and how they plan for the future is really important. Number two, I think what you said in terms of strength of the accommodator, the financial strength and the security of the funds, that's really, really important. The third item, where probably the number one reason for failure of an exchange is the 45 days. And I really think we can help people with that. And what I mean by that is the 45 days to identify once you close, you should have contingencies in your sale language that says that you could extend escrow if you haven't gotten into an acquisition yet. And open an escrow, look at a physical inspection report, make sure that there's not a cloud on title, then you could release the contingency. So whether you go for an additional 30 days or 45 days, or some of the contracts that come across our desk, they said, I'm not closing until I'm in escrow on my new property. Yeah, and I've cleared everything. So there's room for negotiation on how you do it. Right. But the bottom line is you don't have to suffer into the 45 days if you pre-plan. And some people, they say, well, I said, how long is your escrow? It's a 10-day escrow. Have you found your replacement property yet? No. That means basically you have 55 days to be certain or to make changes.
Right.
That's not going to happen in a market.
And this is 45 calendar days, not business days.
Calendar days.
That's very important.
So if I close today's the 25th, I believe. Right. That means tomorrow is day one. It doesn't matter if it's a holiday. It doesn't matter if it's a weekend.
Correct.
Tomorrow's day one of 45 days to name, day one of 180 days to close. We see very few failed exchanges because of the 180 days. It does happen, but it's kind of rare. It's the 45-day issue that's a big, big deal. Right. The third item, or the fourth item, whatever it is by now, is the financing. Making sure you've got good financing to go into the next property. Why? Because typically when you sell a property, you have to replace all the cash minus the non-recurring costs to sell. Commissions, escrow, title insurance, transfer taxes, recording fees, hour fees, or any contractual condition of sale can be paid for out of the proceeds of the cash. Mm-hmm. No tax to them. Right. All that needs to go into the acquisition. But if you had a mortgage where there was payoff, it doesn't have to be institutional either. But if there was a payoff, you have to replace that with other financing or new cash. Mm-hmm. So the bottom line is, if you don't have the cash and you want to stay leveraged, which is probably a good idea, then you have to make sure you are a qualified buyer and that the lenders aren't going to make you jump through hoops or say no at the end.
The worst is the decline.
Oh, be careful.
Right.
Be careful. So you have to make sure that the financing is going to be in place, because I've seen people, they've lost their exchange because they couldn't get a loan.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I've seen also that have caused exchanges to not, I won't say fail, but in some cases they have, or less potent, is if you're the seller and the buyer's asking you to carry back, don't do it, because all the cash from the sale has to go into the acquisition. But then they'll say, well, you know, my deed of trust is only going to go for a year. But the problem is you've passed your 180 days after you've closed. You can't do it. Right. But I can get the money back in time before the end of the 180 days so I can go into the acquisition. But if your seller wants to close faster on your new acquisition, you may have a problem. Plus, we have to be the beneficiary of that note, not the client. So we have to be involved. I usually mention or suggest that if you want to carry back, make sure you have the cash in the bank or somewhere you can put it as a deed of trust to the property. You won't have to pay any capital gains when you get it back because that was your money, not the property's money, where the tax was being deferred. You only would pay taxes on the interest you collect. That's the time to carry back. You'll probably get a 5, 6, 7, 8% note as opposed to 3.5% in the bank or 4%. So you'll make money. It's secured to property that you know a lot about. Right. And then ultimately, you only pay taxes on the interest that you make.
I've never done a deal where they had a seller carry back.
I get too many calls on those. Way too many.
Interesting.
Because maybe they're having a hard time selling the property and they feel that they have to carry back to be able to
just to make the deal happen.
Exactly.
Well, Phil, thank you for all the amazing information. How can the viewers get a hold of you?
Cam, thank you. First of all, it's an honor to be here. I feel honored to be on your show. Secondly, they can get a hold of me 2 ways. They can call me at area code 323-570-1031. That's 323-520-1031. Or email me. It's teamphil, P-H-I-L, at AX Asset Exchange. I don't know where they got the X. X sounds like exchange, I guess. Teamphil at AX1031.com.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, Phil. Look forward to having you be on the show.
Always a pleasure and an honor. Thank
Appreciate
you.
Phil.
Have a good day.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share any questions or comments in the comments below, and follow us on social media. I look forward to seeing you next time.
Let's get together. Let's get to having some fun. Let's do whatever. The night's looking so young. Let's get together. Let's get to having some fun. Let's get together. Let's get together. Let's get together. Let's get together.